So joined today by Senator Rick Santorum, and a pleasure to have you here in Spencer.
It is great to be here on an absolutely gorgeous day in a beautiful town that you have here in Spencer. It's always great to come back, and being up here in the this area. This is one of the one of the gems of Iowa here. I was up in Okoboji earlier, and coming down here, this is really beautiful.
Well, and certainly Northwest Iowa is a stronghold for the GOP in the state. This is definitely an area you want to win strong support.
And we did, and we won this county last time, so we're very excited about coming back.
Very good. Well, tell us, we know a lot about Rick Santorum, the candidate. Tell us a little bit about Rick Santorum, the person. People may not know.
Well, I think most people know that I'm married, been married 25 years to an amazing wife who raises 7 kids with me, and we have three older kids, one out of college, 2 in college. My 2 in college go to the military school of South Carolina, which is called the Citadel, and one of them is going to graduate and go into the Air Force. We have 3 in high school, so very much still managing and raising kids, and a 7-year-old little girl whose name is Bella, who Karen and I just wrote a book about recently called Bella's Gift, which is a chronicling of our story dealing with all of the trials and the joys of raising a child with severe disabilities. And so she is, people ask me all the time how she's doing. She's doing great. She's healthy, and still, obviously, I mean, she has permanent disabilities, so you're always dealing with that. But she's really the joy that in our family. Beyond that, I'm a couple other things. I guess I'd say I'm sort of a putzer around the house. I'm a beekeeper, which probably most people don't know. So I keep bees. We have 3 hives that I tend to, and struggling through everything. Of those who don't know anything about beekeeping, there's a real problem in the beekeeping world called colony collapse disorder, which is bees just sort of up and disappear. And last year, America lost 40% of the beehives, and they do that pretty much on an annual basis. And these bees just leave the hive, and nobody knows where they go, and they just disappear or die. And so that's happened to me too. And so it's one of the reasons I started to keep bees was because of the problems of beehive collapses. And I thought, well, I'll sort of do my part to help out, and I thought it'd be a cool little thing for the kids to participate in. 2 of them do, the rest do not. They don't, because occasionally get stung. Yeah. You wear your bee suit, but sometimes you go down there and you just want to do 1 or 2 things. You don't want to dress up in your suit, and sometimes if you don't quite do it the right way, you get nailed. But so I do that. I've got a garden and orchard, and so I try to do a little farming on the side. We have a couple acres, and so it's. So that's what keeps me busy when I'm around the house, other than raising 7 kids around the house.
Well, good news is the White House has plenty of rooms for a family that large. So,
well, I hope so. People always ask me, hey, can I stay at the Lincoln bedroom? I say, I'm going to have kids in the Lincoln bedroom.
Yeah, I think it's going to be occupied.
It's going to be occupied. Probably we have 7 now. Obviously, we have a few that are older, but. Right now, everybody, my oldest daughter graduated from college and is living in the basement. So we still have everybody pretty much around the house, which I think a lot of families can relate to these days. Things are tough for young people getting out of school. And although when I travel around here in Spencer, the most common sign I see is now hiring. It seems like things are going pretty well here in this area. Now, obviously, it's summertime and, it's sort of a busy time up here, but seems in Iowa, things seem to be a little better than they are in most places around the country.
So let's talk a little politics now. Okay. I know that's part of what we're going to talk about today. Immigration seems to be the hot button topic, and for all the candidates, I know everybody kind of focuses on Donald Trump right now, but certainly I know you outlined a plan at your own just last week. Talk about, first of all, why is immigration such a hot, there's plenty of things to talk about without a doubt, but why does immigration seem to be the one thing that everybody's really focused on at the moment? And talk about your plan a little bit.
Well, I introduced my plan originally back in May, first week of May, and have been really focused on this a lot more than pretty much any other candidate up until recently. And I focused on it because I actually think it's a couple of things. Number one, it is a very important issue to Americans. And I think one of the reasons it's important is because you have a lot of Americans working hard, playing by the rules, trying to get ahead, and they see a group of people who are breaking the law, who have broken the law, who are demanding rights. And they come to this country illegally and they're demanding rights, and you have a whole group of people out there saying, if you don't feel the way they do, then you're a bigot. You're somebody who hates immigrants. You're somebody who just is unwelcoming and harsh. And people look at it and say, wait a minute, I'm out here I'm playing by the rules. I haven't broken any laws. Mm-hmm. I'm here trying to provide for my family, and I'm being told that I have to pay benefits to people who came to this country illegally, and that if people, and they're looking and say, what, that doesn't, why are you trying to make me feel bad? And I think it tapped into this idea that, if you have a different feeling about the way the media portrays something, that somehow or another you're just a bad person and you're a hater or you're a bigot or you're these. And I think people are tired of it. They're saying, wait a minute, these folks are not playing by the rules. These people are asking and demanding rights that under the law they don't deserve, and you're making me feel bad for saying, wait a minute, what about us? What about the fact that they're coming here and they're taking jobs and holding down wages, which they are. If you look at wages over the past 25 years, they've gone up about $1 an hour over the last 25 years. That's like a nickel a year. And people are saying we brought in 35 million people into this country in the last 20 years, and we have the highest rate of a percentage of immigrants in this country in 105 years. Since the Great Wave, we had the Great Wave of immigration around the turn of the last century. And people are tired of being, made to feel like they're somehow, uncompassionate, not compassionate, and that they're anti-immigrant, when in fact they're just concerned about, how the economy is working in America today. They're worried about lawlessness at the border. They're about lawlessness in these sanctuary cities. Everybody's just not obeying the law and demanding rights, these cities not obeying the law, letting prisoners go free, people getting killed, and they're saying, "Wait, what's wrong with this picture?" And we finally have people tapping into that and saying, "Hey, wait a minute, what about enforcing the law? What about treating everybody?" One of the great things about America, people always ask me, what's the greatest thing about America? I said, nobody's above the law. That's the great thing about America. Law is we are a country of laws, not of men, not of people saying, you know what, this is how I think it should be, and we're going to just do whatever we want to do. And people in their gut understand that, and yet that's not what's going on right now. And so I think that's why this is ignited. The second reason is it is actually an issue that separates Republicans greatly. On a lot of issues, the Republican candidates are pretty similar. On this one, it's across the board. I mean, you have people like Rick Santorum, who is the only candidate so far that's gotten an A rating from the immigration control groups because of my position on illegal immigration and legal immigration. I actually believe that given we bring in over 1,050,000 legal immigrants, almost all of whom are unskilled. And I've suggested that, given the huge rate of immigration, given the low rate of wages, given the unemployment rate among wage earners in America, what's called the participation rate of people in the economy now, people who are looking for work, is only 62% of the public, which is a low since the Depression. And you look at all those things and you say, we have to do something to cut back on the number of unskilled laborers coming in here and competing against wage earners in America, particularly minority youth. And so I put a whole plan together to do that. And so we're out there with the only almost everybody else, save 2 people of the 16, have C's, D's, and F's from and so you have folks like Marco Rubio, and you have people like Ben Carson and Ted Cruz and Huckabee and Bush. Those folks, very low grades because number one, their stances on illegal immigration are not very strong, but more importantly, their stances on legal immigration. They don't want any reductions in legal. In fact, for example, Ted Cruz wants to double the number of legal immigrants in this country per year coming. He wants 2 million to come in a year. He wants to take this program called the H-1B program, which is tech worker programs right now, which is just over almost 80% of them coming in are low-skilled tech workers, if you will, computer programmers, things like that, folks with just college degrees. And they're being brought over to displace American workers. In one case, Southern California Edison brought in 700 tech workers from India to do computer programming, had the computer programs at Southern California Edison, trained them, and then fired them and replaced them with these tech workers to work for 30% less. Now, that's not what our immigration program should be doing. They shouldn't be bringing people over here to fire people so we can get lower wages. But that, again, and Ted Cruz wants to take that program and increase it fivefold. He wants to, quadruple that program. So there are real clear differences between what Republicans want to do on this issue, and I think that's what makes it more interesting. That yes, there's a very hot debate on it for a legitimate reason, but there's also a hot debate because there's legitimate differences within the party.
Let's talk about some other things. We talk a great deal about immigration. What are the other key issues to you personally when it comes to leading this country?
Well, the immigration issue ties into this because one of the reasons I've been so forceful on the issue of immigration is because I think what's been missing in America is one of the political parties out there talking about how we can make things better for American workers, for wage earners in America who have been struggling so much. And I think immigration's part of it. But another big part of it is we have to grow this economy much more robustly than we've grown it. And in particular, we have to grow it to help a sector of the economy that could create real good employment opportunities for wage earners, and that's the manufacturing sector. We've seen some wage growth in part because of the energy sector of the economy, everything from ethanol here in Iowa to fracking up in North Dakota to other energy-related areas, but it's very regional, right? Because the energy is either now you've got the Corn Belt here, which has done well over the past 10 years because of the increasing price of corn. Now that's down again this year, but and the same thing with oil and energy. I mean, all energy prices are down this year, and so corn's going to be no different than that. So that's good, but it's been spotty because it's dependent on where you are. We need something that has a broader impact, and manufacturing does, because you can locate a manufacturing plant anywhere, and particularly for small town and rural America. Because if you look at the areas of the country that have really struggled, other than those small towns and rural areas that have energy, it's been those small towns. I mean, I travel around Iowa. We've been to 90 counties so far out of the 99, and I can tell you, having visited many, many small towns in Iowa over the past year, and many, many more 4 years ago. The area that's that are struggling are these little towns where you have stores boarded up and the town squares, in many cases, really really hurting. And most of those towns were started because of some sort of manufacturing or processing that was done in those towns. And as a result of that, of the just collapse of manufacturing, we had 20 million people working in manufacturing in 1980. We've got 11 million working it today, and it's dropping like this because of our 40% tax code and because of our regulatory environment, which is very, very hostile to manufacturing now, thanks to President Obama. We're having a hard time, and therefore small town and rural America is having a hard time. You turn manufacturing around, small town America is going to do well, and Iowa, of course, will do. Iowa used to be a great manufacturing center. There's still a fair amount here, and as a result of that, there's a tremendous opportunity to be able to have it come back. And so I'm excited about that. I'm excited what it can do for this state, and frankly for the entire country.
We look at right now the military. Things are gearing up in the Korean area. Talking about mobilizing there. Just an incident here over the weekend. I mean, it constantly it seems like we're stretching our military.
Well, it's not we're stretching our military. Our president is putting us in for this position. What the president has done is displayed to every tyrant in the world. If you stand up to this president, he'll back down. And so it's not surprising. Every tyrant is pushing. They see the next 18 months as an opportunity to grab land or to grab to grab influence. You look at every country over the past couple of years since President Obama's reelection. They see a weak president who does not want to lead, who's afraid to engage, who draws lines and doesn't keep them, and he is encouraging by that action evil to push. China, they're building islands in the South China Sea so they can control shipping lanes. What have we done? Nothing. You look at Russia, invasion of Crimea, invasion of Ukraine, now threatening Estonia, Latvia, whatever. What has the president done? Virtually nothing to stop them. You look at Syria, red line. What did he do? Nothing. Look at, and by the way, I think it was a wrong red line, so don't get me wrong. I think it was a mistake for him to draw the red line in the first place. You look at Iran. Iran is, this nuclear agreement is a complete capitulation to the Iranian government. And Iran is right now almost in control of Iraq. Why? Because the president withdrew and allowed Iran and ISIS to take over Iraq and parts of Syria. You look at Israel. I mean, we have backed away from our commitments in Israel. Egypt, we've done the same thing. You look at Cuba. Cuba has spent the last 10 years flipping countries all throughout Central and South America against the United States. They flip these democracies into tyrannical Marxist dictatorships, following in the line of Cuba. And what's our answer? We open up an embassy. We reward Cuba for turning the entire hemisphere against the United States. I'm surprised it took so long for the North Korean leader to figure out, hey, we've got an opportunity here to maybe move the line or maybe get South Korea to agree to give us stuff, because they can't. South Korea is not going to depend on the United States to do anything because they know the United States isn't going to stand up. So every tyrannical dictator is going to take advantage of this opportunity to push the United States around, and every other country is going to cave to that dictator because they know the United States is not going to be there.
I imagine the Republican candidates are tiring about talking about Donald Trump. But that's right at the time, he is the current leader. Dr. Ben Carson doing quite well for someone who really wasn't that well known within the ranks. Two very non-politically related histories there, both doing quite well.
Yeah.
Is that a message to you, or how do you view it?
It's not a message to me. I've been out of government for the better part of 10 years, and have been out working in the private sector. I've been running a movie company for the past couple of years, trying to make faith and family-oriented films, and so I've been separated from the Washington scene quite a bit, but obviously engaged in it because engaged in politics, not engaged in Washington, to try to see what we could do to make changes to what's going on there. But I'm as frustrated as everybody else. One of the reasons I'm running for president, because I think Washington is completely dysfunctional. We have pathetic leadership in Washington, and we need someone with vision, and we need someone who has ideas, and someone who has a track record of getting those ideas done. And you want a leader who can shake things up and get things done at the same times. That's really the key. I mean, there's a lot of folks who can pound the table and say, we need to do this, this, and this, and if they don't do this, I'm gonna be tough. And that sounds great, and it wins. It may win some people in an election, but ultimately you got to look at the track record. Did that person ever accomplish anything? And if you look at some of the people running, they sound real tough, but they have no record of accomplishment. And we've done this before. I mean, the American people have put people in office who have very little record of accomplishment, and when they get to Washington D.C., guess what? They don't accomplish anything. Now, look at Barack Obama as a classic example. He's never did anything before he became he had never accomplished anything before he became president. He came into Washington, and all he's done is divide the country. And other than jamming through Obamacare when he had supermajorities in the House and Senate, he hasn't accomplished a single thing, and has just divided this country over and over and over again. Do we really want to repeat that on the Republican side? Do we want someone who's, really tough and is, just like Obama and, I'm going to change I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And you look and you say, well, what gives you the impression that they can do any of that? You look at the most conservative piece of legislation that passed, that every conservative scholar will tell you is the greatest accomplishment of the Republican Congress in the 1990s and early parts of 2000 was something called welfare reform. It was my bill. I authored it, and I managed it on the floor and negotiated with other people. I wasn't by myself, but negotiated with other people to get the compromise done to pass a bill that cut the welfare rolls in half, got rid of the only federal entitlement in history, and means-tested entitlement for the poor, block granted it to the state, everything that conservatives say they want to do, and put a work requirement and time limits. It's been a tremendous success. It cut the welfare rolls long-term still today. I think the rolls are still lower than they were 20 years ago. So that will tell you that you have someone who is principled but can and tough, but can get things done. The Iran sanctions that brought the Iranians to the table for these negotiations 2 years ago was my bill. I authored it, and even though we had when I brought the bill up, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and John Kerry all voted against my bill, and it lost by 4 votes. And about 3 months later, we watered it down just a little bit, unfortunately, and it passed unanimously. I wish we hadn't watered it down now, but we did. But it still put a tremendous amount of sanctions in place. I would have liked more. But it shows you, again, someone who's out there pushing the envelope on important things. I've been a leader on Iran for 12 years. I've been talking about Iran with a nuclear program is the greatest threat to this country, and here we are. And let me assure you, the Iranian government knows who I am. They know who I am. They know what I believe in, and they know that if Rick Santorum is the president of the United States, they've got someone that they're their nightmare to contend with. And those are the kinds of things that people have to look at. It's not just what you say you want to do, but what you've done and how that fits in to the problems that confront this country. Rick Santorum is somebody who has, been fighting for manufacturing and creating an environment to be competitive for 20 years. I used to represent the Steel Valley of Pittsburgh, which are all the old abandoned steel mills, some and obviously still some there. But I've been on the forefront of trying to get manufacturing competitive for 20 years. This isn't new for me. I've been someone who's fought the issues of making sure that there's respect and dignity for human life. So when you see these Planned Parenthood videos, the laws that they are breaking are laws that I passed. One of the videos describes a baby being born all but the head to preserve the organs so they could harvest the organs without damaging them while they're doing the abortion. Well, that's called a partial birth abortion. That's a bill that I authored and we passed, and in fact passed it in light of a Supreme Court saying it was unconstitutional. We told the court they're wrong. It's not unconstitutional. We passed the bill even though the court said it was unconstitutional, and the court overturned itself. Again, someone who stands up to the court, someone who fights against these horrific procedures that we're seeing against. I did that 20 years ago, and so I just share with you. This is something. If you want to look at the issues that are hot today, the issues that are important for the American public, immigration. I had an immigration. I did a border security bill again 11 years ago. So we have a record, and of someone who's. I was with a reporter from Fox the other day, and he was at the Iowa State Fair, and I did an interview. And after the interview, he got up. He said, "Doesn't it frustrate you?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Everything all these candidates are out here talking about today, you've been talking about for 10 or 15 years. He said, "They're now all talking like you." I said, "Well, I'm flattered, but it's because I saw these problems coming a long, long time ago. And, I've been nice if people would have, and maybe I just didn't do a good enough job articulating what the problem was or what the vision was. But I think it's pretty clear, we're the right person for this country right now to be able to deal with the problems that it's confronting."